So, you were discussing about the system landscape. In system landscape, you have development server, you have quality server, and production server. Okay, and these servers are set up by people in the server administration department. So these servers are available to us for configuration, for development, customization, testing, standards testing, and for business process integration, and that is taken care of by functional consultants. When development is done, configuration is done, you need to test the solution in the quality server, and we create test scripts for our clients, for our customers, for the end users, for the management, for business process owners. Okay. And those test scripts are nothing but steps, training guides, user guides, and the management actually matches those test scripts with their processes, with their current running existing processes. So before this quality testing, we have a process, a very rich process that is as is what is actually going on in an enterprise. And this as is process is basically a collection of all the process on a document. Finance people will collect their finance processes. HR people will collect their own processes, for example, like hiring, onboarding, upskilling, training and development, event management, and uh, staff augmentation, interdepartmental costing, budgeting. These are processes, and every enterprise has their own set of processes. So when this is a very comprehensive uh, document that is to be made by every party that is involved, from the departments to the management to the consultants, from the consulting company. Then the consultants actually sit down with their expertise and they create a 2B process. Again, a whole document. So the combination of 2B and as is basically becomes the foundation for business blueprint document. That is a milestone, after which the configurations actually start. Once 2B and as is collected and agreed upon and mutually signed off, it is a milestone in our project. So steps then are decided and laid out for testing. The T codes are basically selected, what T codes will be used. And all of this is basically then approved and signed, tested by business process owners, users, and project managers. Okay. So it can be approved, it cannot be approved. It depends on what kind of alignment of the process has been done. Then comes in the training of the end users on this quality server. Everything is tested along with UAT. Training and UAT and testing, everything is done on the quality server. Quality server is where no configuration is done. Configuration is done on the development client. So when training the end users, of course, you carry out user acceptance testing for the business process owners, and the business process owners train the users, okay? And the users basically then give the feedback to the management, the business process owners, and that's how it flows. So in this manner, in this fashion, the UAT can be a success, okay? And once the UAT is approved, signed, and accepted, then the data transfer actually starts from the legacy to the production, and the configuration is moved from quality to production, PRD. So for moving to PRD, we go to move the data to pre-PRD, and we match it with the legacy systems like records, transactions, and totals, and then we move it to PRD. Okay. So the architecture of SAP R3, which was real-time 3 layers, and S4HANA is a bit different. In R3, that was old technology with three layers. Layers were presentation, which is the screen the user uses. The database layer, the middle layer. The middle layer is where ABAP program, logics, configuration is actually residing. Okay. And this is where middle layer is communicating with database layer, and presentation layer actually sends a request for processing. In S4HANA, it's a bit different. There is a database layer, but the capacity of the RAM is much more higher. It's about like 20 terabytes or 50 terabytes. And database is actually used as recording and capturing of the transactions on a passive mode. Okay, so the RAM is basically is SAP. RAM is doing the SAP work, not the database. In this, it was a database that was working. Here, it's replaced by RAM, while database actually captures and stores the data. So there are like three types of projects: implementation, support, and rollouts. The others are enhancement and upgradation. Upgradation, of course, if you want a module to be enhanced in its processes or development has to go on, then it is an upgradation and enhancement project. The methodology for using implementation of project is ASAP, which is accelerated SAP methodology, where we start implementing the project with the first phase of scoping. Scoping is as is to be. You gather all the processes and you suggest the processes. Okay. The business blueprinting, requirement gathering, and process gathering is part of scoping. So all the processes are basically collected at one place with the functional and technical team. So the scoping document will have the specification document. The business blueprint document will have specifications for configurations, pathways, solutions, solution mapping, and the standards. And along the way, if there are gaps are basically standards of the industry not covered by SAP. Okay. So these gaps are either developed with customization, that is enhancement, or you actually, as a consultant, devise a way around. So there is a policy of abandon and adopt the SAP standard. Or if that standard, industry standard, is inevitable, then of course the user exit enhancement has to be replaced. And it has to replace the SAP standard. So customization, which is also called user exit in SAP, is used to enhance a module, a process to be a part of the SAP software. Then comes the RISE-UP. RISE-UP is nothing but it's an abbreviation for workflows, reports, interface, conversion, enhancement, and forms. Okay. Once the scoping, the blueprinting is done, and we have decided that, okay, these are the processes, 500 or 600 processes that will go into SAP in the form of configuration or development or enhancements or reports, anything. Once that is decided, then comes the realization, which is the configuration part. Configuration part basically is like you connect the dots, you configure the whole system, and you develop enhancement to make room for gaps and customization for reports. Okay. And then comes in the testing part, pre-go live preparation, where we reconcile the records, the old records, and then there is go live and support, and post go live support is there after the project has gone live. So implementation methodology, the first three phases are very important, which is project preparation, scoping, business blueprinting. Okay. And these are very important phases. So first three phases are in development server, which is preparation, scoping, blueprinting. Although this is all done on document, but the development server is used here. Testing is done in QA server, and the go live is done on PRD. No configuration is done in PRD. So business blueprinting is nothing but requirement gathering. Requirement gathering is that this process, it has to be either configured as it is in SAP, or it has to be improved or replaced. Okay, that is business blueprinting. So every functional person, consultant, will have to create a set of blueprints for the process, and that is basically collected at one place. So some requirements can be compatible and some requirements can be non-compatible. So when you actually map the requirements, you then get to have the industry knowledge. That's why job descriptions as to for end-to-end end-to-end project implementation. And then a functional or technical consultant will actually sit down and analyze the compatibility issues, the gaps. Okay, that is basically a comparison between client requirements and SAP licensing. This is very important phase. So gaps are analyzed by functional consultants and they advise the solution. Okay, and the solution is then agreed upon by the client, by the consulting company, consultants, developers, and that's how gaps are then introduced in SAP. Okay, so although this might actually seem a little bit dry discussion, but this is very important because this is what you're going to actually come across and face in real-time projects. This discussion will be a part of your portfolio. Okay, so the gap solutions are basically advised on paper. They're not in system until they are approved by the management. Okay, after approval, it is configured in SAP. And once the approval of blueprinting is established, then the configuration actually starts. So the functional parts are getting configured, technical parts are getting developed, and technical functional objects are stored separately. And how these are stored, let me just give you an overview. And this is how it is stored. Go to SC10. This is a transaction. This is where we keep the transport of our configurations. So this is our username, display, and this is where we actually keep our configuration in place. For example, if we talk about, okay, customizing task, what are we customizing? Let's see, in WasNet app, these many things are being configured in this node, and this node is basically a folder that will be transported to the QA server. Okay, so these nodes are then transported. Okay, and these transports are made by basis consultants. Okay, we can release them and transport them. Okay, we release them and it is released to the as a request to the basis consultant to be released to the QA server. Okay, so once the configuration starts, the user management is done along with functional consultants and business owners. And the users are then given T codes. What T codes? A certain user of finance, of HCM, of material management, of production, they will be using separate categorized T codes. So at quality server, once everything is transported, the teams actually sit down to test the configuration, the code, the process, and they find bugs and mismatches, disconnects before everything is smoothed out. It's smoothed and transported to the BRD server. So this is actually done through transport management server TMS. Okay. And then comes in end user training, which actually goes on for 15-30 days. And then UET is done for the higher management, and implementation is actually reaching to a conclusion after this. Okay. So after everything is aligned, reconciled, the post go live actually is approaching very fast. And then after the go live, the support starts. So I'll go very fast over the areas of the family of the SAP system. We have ERP system, CRM, supplier relationship management, advanced planning optimization, supply chain management, BIBW, which is analytics stack, enterprise, EP is enterprise portal, XI and PI is this is integration again with the machine integration. MDM is master data management, BPM is business process management, PPC is business process consolidation, PLM is project lifecycle management. Then there are industry solutions specific to industries like retail, pharma, media, AFS. AFS is for apparel. Okay. real estate, utilities for public sectors. In SAP HCM, of course, there are many other areas that will come across, but we have other specialized modules like strategic and enterprise management, APO, PLM, SCM, and so on. Okay, so you can actually go down and see how these modules actually work. So enterprise portal is nothing but service-oriented. A service is requested and a service is provided. That is service-oriented architecture. Socket programming. It is web app based and single sign-on SSO. These are digital web-based technologies. Okay, master data management, CRM has these many areas. Then we have ticket processing tools, Solman, Citrix. These are connected with SAP. Okay, so coming down to what we are done with the lecture number one. The project phases, as I mentioned earlier, there's a requirement gathering phase, then the licenses are purchased, compatibilities and non-compatibilities are compared and documented, blueprint is prepared, senior functional consultants actually come down and they identify the gaps and specifications, and they issue directives for the developers and consultants to configure SAP. Once requirement gathering is done, configuration starts, okay, and the configuration is then tested over every landscape from dev to QA before reaching the PRD. Okay, so there are like teams for everything, for configuration, for development, for architecture. Architecture is done by senior consultants. So testing teams will test the process. They will have the user manuals. Authorization will be done by functional and basis consultants. Test scripts are prepared by testing teams and supplementing teams. And then UAT is conducted by senior consultants, and then comes in the last is uploads. So after the PRD is ready, then there is a ticketing system that is introduced for supporting the SAP ERP along with the business and their issues. So along the way, the SAP software actually evolves, the business process get improved, users get pretty much aligned and smooth, and they are getting much more tech savvy with SAP software. So upgraded version actually make their space to be evolved and configured into the systems. So there are layers in SAP software like database, application, presentation. Presentation is the screen layer. Application is where the logic and configuration is actually residing and the modules are residing. Database is all where the data, the configuration, everything is basically residing. So easy access screen is basically where we start configuration. Okay. And easy access screen, this is the easy access screen. Okay. We have SAP menu. This is the easy access screen. We have if you're talking about human resources, we have the screens that we'll be working on. Okay. And then we'll start with configuration afterwards. We'll wait until the screen actually starts. So we have implementation guide, that is the backend, time management module, payroll module. So in a big project, we're talking about like 30, 35 consultants who will be working on a project. Like if they want to install and configure SAP for payroll Argentina, then versus if they want to in parallel want to roll out the payroll for Austria, of course, the team of consultants will be quite big enough. And if there is taxation and payroll international that has to be put in place and configured and rolled out, of course, the scope will increase and so will the number of the consultants. Okay. So it's not opening up yet. So speaking of HR, human resources, and we have end user menu that we'll see once we actually open up this screen. And we'll be looking at personnel management, administration, uh, and this is the T code PA30, and we'll be looking at that. Okay. So speaking of SAP, it has come up with many versions. Okay. Like R3, S4HANA. Some modules are just not part of the ERP because they are standalone systems and integrated, and they run in parallel with SAP ERP, like CRM, APO. These are not part of ERP. Okay. So again, coming back to the discussion of the family, we have already discussed what modules that we have. Okay. And that's the end of lecture 2 as well. So we are going a little bit fast, but anyways, because we have to start our, so here we are, personnel management, administration, PA30, and personnel number 102. Okay, Felix Gonzalez, enter. And we have actions, organization assignment, double click, change. And we have a detail about Felix Gonzalez. Personnel area is Lawrenceford, Karachi. Company code is H29, corporate office. So these areas are what we will be configuring percentage. And the position is HR manager Lawrenceford. Okay. And organization unit is LPR. Okay. Organization key and so on. Okay. So this is just an overview that I was actually giving. Coming back to our discussion again, analytics, yes, it is separate stack and it connects with many other technology like IBM, Informatica, Hyperion. And in BI, of course, there are dashboards to configure and set up analytics stack, which requires huge data models, which actually fall under modeling. Okay, and that are basically categorized and under functional data coming from HR, inventory, finance, and so on. Then once the model is in place, then the extraction and reporting comes and follow throughs from there onwards. Planning and consolidating, again, this is part of the finance. Okay. So I'm just skipping these parts because this is just theoretical. And rest, we will be actually looking at these areas in the next lectures. And organizational management will start from the next lecture. We'll be starting from here, your 10. And from here, we'll actually start with our configuration. End of today's lecture. Stay tuned and we'll be uploading this lecture very soon.